Hey everyone, welcome back to Diaries of a 20-something. I'm Paige Marquez, your host. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. It is that time of year again when things tend to get a little bit spooky, and I'm not just talking about Halloween. If you've ever felt like your relationships or your love life is cursed in October, you're not alone. I feel that. The fact is that something about this month makes it feel like dating is just a haunted house of horrors. So this week, we're diving into scary first date stories. You guys sent me so much, and I'm so grateful for how much you guys are contributing to this podcast because I love when this is more of a conversation. I have my glass of wine ready. We're going to be talking first dates, red flags, and just all things dating and sharing tips with you guys that I've learned to try and keep you out of the House of Horrors. So stick around if you dare. Hope you guys love the intro. I'm doing a Halloween themed month, and I wish I started it last week, but I completely forgot. So let's just talk first about the blanket statement that men have gotten so scary. Like, I'm literally dressing up as a man for Halloween. I'm not even kidding. And dating has gotten so superficial and so different the way that it's changed with time. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media and just like the prevalence of online dating. And you guys sent me some great first date horror stories. So I'm going to go through them with you guys and just tell you guys my thoughts. Okay. Number one, went on a date and the man gave me a fire rescue shirt off the bat. Here's the thing. There's something about first responders and dating first responders. I've been involved with two. My first boyfriend ever was a firefighter. Hey, if you're watching this, I know you creep my stuff sometimes. I actually was just kind of involved with another first responder, a cop, very casual, not anything serious. Apparently we broke up the other day and I didn't even know that we were dating. So the thing with first responders that I've noticed when, I've had friends that have dated first responders and myself, just the common theme with them is an ego. They have a very specific ego and a very specific tendency to want to show up every man that's in their vicinity. And I don't really know where it comes from, but the ego itself is the scariest part about these men and why I tend to try and steer clear of them, because there's something like deeply rooted and wrong with them, I think. With my first boyfriend, he always wanted to like fight other men. Like, it was always the weirdest thing. Like, if he felt like any part of him was like threatened or whatever, he would just always want to prove like how manly he was and how like alpha he was. And for some reason, all the ones I've met are exactly the same way. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter if you're a cop, you're a firefighter, whatever. There is something about them that I just stay away from. But that is horrible. I mean, like, clearly, if he gives you a fire rescue t-shirt right off the bat, he's probably very into his career, which normally is a good thing. But I would say not when you're a first responder, because the more you're obsessed with like being a hero, the bigger your ego is. In turn, the worst boyfriend you could be. That is how I feel. Okay, next one. He was texting his ex while on the date, and when I said something about it, he got really defensive. That one's actually kind of funny. I really hope that you ran away from this man and did not see him again. Like, genuinely, sometimes I wish I could be a man just for one day, just to see and just to experience where they get the audacity from, because it's actually insane to me. I swear men have this ability to hold on to their exes for as long as they possibly can. Like I said, like a little bit ago, my ex-boyfriend, I'm sure he watches all of these episodes. I mean, I can see him stalk my TikTok every week. We dated, how long has it been since we broke up? About 5 years, and he's still doing it. It's just like men just never close that door. And I feel like when it comes to exes, you have like your first love and then you have your first love. I've had my first love, but I haven't had my first love yet. Like, I know that I have never loved a man before, truly. Like, I've been in lust, I've been in love, but I've never been like in love. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? My dad still talks about his ex-fiance to this day, and it has been over 30 years. There is something about men just holding on to their exes, and I don't really know what it is. Dating a guy that is obsessed with their ex is like dating somebody and then being haunted by a ghost. It really is, because you're always going to be like comparing yourself, or he's always going to be comparing you, and you fall into this trap of like always looking at them on social media. I've never dated a guy who was obsessed with their ex, so I can't really speak on this from direct experience, but I could imagine how horrible that could be. I know people where it's happened to them, but I have been lucky enough to not have to deal with that. Here we go. Number 3, not really a first date, but I was seeing a guy for a while and he just wanted a friends with benefits situation. Then he got mad at me for using him as an object. I'm going to say this right off the bat. Men want a girl for just sex until that's all you want them for. And then they get all upset. They get mad at what they created. They're like, like, I hate crazy girls. I hate girls that get obsessive. Like, no, you don't. Like, no, you don't. You need it for your ego. Like, that is what it is. It comes down to egos. This scenario has actually happened to me before. Kind of recently, actually. I feel like these men are like the Freddy Kruegers of the casual dating world. You know, like men like want something casual. They don't want a relationship. They're not ready. They don't want the pressure. They don't like commitment, whatever, until you literally play them the exact same way. You know what I mean? And then they end up like hating you and getting all upset and having all this resentment solely based on the fact that you're not obsessed with them. It's a mind game. It's like the classic horror trope of like the monster that can't handle their own creation. Like that is exactly what this is. The fact is that men love to play the game until you beat them at it. I would love for men to turn into women and just date one of your kind. Date one of your friends, date yourself. It's just, whatever. I feel like this situation is happening a lot more often nowadays than ever before. Number 4, he forgot his wallet. No, he didn't. I swear, this excuse is so overplayed and so ridiculous, and I hope that whoever wrote this in did not pay for the date. I really hope you didn't. If that happened to me, I would simply stand up and walk away. There is no way that I would end up paying for a date. Men are supposed to be courting women. You know, it's not the other way around. And like, honestly, the whole feminist movement of like, oh, like we're equals, we should be 50-50. Like, no, it shouldn't be. And honestly, I am beefing with feminists because why did you guys put us all in a situation where we're forced to work? Do y'all not realize how good you had it? Now we're forced to work. Like, what is this? Trick or treat, this is clearly a trick disguised as a treat. I've heard of this happening. This has never happened to me personally, which thank God, but if it did, I would definitely walk out. Like, I'm not paying. Like, oh, you forgot your wallet? Go in the back and clean dishes until you're gonna pay for it. Like, maybe if I was like actually dating somebody and like he actually forgot his wallet, like, yeah, like I'll spot you once, whatever. But like, if it was like a first date or even like first couple dates with a guy, like, no. Absolutely not. Reading all of these to you guys and showing you guys all of these horrible experiences that people have been through. I hope that listening to this so far is giving you guys some insight, because sometimes being ghosted is better, because sometimes men are scarier in person. So if you've been ghosted recently, consider yourself lucky. And obviously, like, there's common red flags with men. When it comes down to red flags, there's like 4 different types of men that I keep seeing as a trend. And I would say the first one is the creepy clinger. That's what I'm calling it. Just like the guy that gets way too intense way too soon, the guy that really wants the relationship and really makes that so obvious to the point where it's almost like pressuring. I went on a date like that the other day, actually. I ended up like crying about my boy problems to him at the end of the night, and literally he still wants to take me on a second date, but I'm like, no, I've shown too much vulnerability and that is not happening. And then, like we mentioned before, the guy that literally cannot ever stop thinking about his ex or talking about his ex. I mean, I've been on a date before where a guy talked about his ex a lot, and that was kind of weird because I'm like, I don't care, like, at all. I feel like there's a fine line. Like, you want a guy to be open to talking about his past relationships, but you don't want a guy that it's like all he talks about. But you don't want a guy to be secretive about talking about their exes either, because that's just weird. It's like, why are you making it a secret? Like, obviously you messed it up. The ex just keeps rising from the dead, essentially, like a zombie. Then you have the vampire kind of men, the ones that just suck the life out of you. Whether it's just like talking about themselves constantly or just draining all your good energy. Like, oh my God, have you guys ever been with somebody that is just so negative? Like, I know some of my family members, aka my dad, would call me a negative Nancy. And I think that that is fair. A man being a negative Nancy is like low-key so much worse, I feel, because it's like, what do you have to be negative about? Like, you're a white man. Like, I'm sorry, guys. That was sexist, I think. No, they're just the worst. Like, I don't want to hear about your problems. You're going to listen to my problems. The more I podcast about dating, the more I realize that I fully might be the problem, but like, it's whatever. I don't think I'm crazy for saying these things. But then you have the guy that ghosts you. You know, and I think that there are specific tips and tricks to avoid being ghosted and to be essentially a ghostbuster. You know, you have the guy that ghosts you and he's always perfect. He always says the right things. And then all of a sudden he either ghosts you or like goes really cold all of a sudden. There is nothing worse than these type of men. It's always those guys, the guys that you're so head over heels for, and they just disappear out of your life and then make you feel crazy forever thinking that it was ever anything. Like, so I think love bombing is like a huge and a super common factor here. I feel like it's always a part of the equation. I feel like honestly, just to like protect yourself from this and like to be like a ghostbuster, you have to just be aware that this happens and be aware of the little teeny signs. And sometimes I will say there are no signs. It just happens out of nowhere and that sucks. But this is why we keep a roster until there is a ring, my friends. Always have a guy in your back pocket. It's just important to have a roster until you absolutely know for sure that you do not need a roster anymore. But there's also like factors and things to consider when it comes to just surviving a first date and surviving dating. I think the first one is to trust your gut. If your gut is telling you something, it's probably right. It's better to be safe than sorry. Also setting boundaries, like clearly defining at the beginning, like what you're looking for, what you don't like. And I know like dating is a learning process. You're kind of learning those things as you go, but it's important to vocalize them as you learn them as well. And then the most important part of dating, especially when you're dating men that you've never met before, plan escape routes. Don't be stupid. Don't go on a first date to his house. Always make it a public place. Never let him pick you up or drop you off. Just like be smart about it. Be safe about it, because I don't want anybody to get murdered. Just make sure you have someone on standby, someone that knows you're on a date, someone that knows where you are if anything goes wrong. It's just important to not be so frivolous about it. It's like, have fun with dating, but don't risk your life for it, because no man is worth risking your life over, especially a guy that you're probably only going to see for a couple hours. And this also comes down to like the kinds of dates that you're going on. Like, I've never been a super big, like, I love dinner date person. I like more adventure type dates. Dinner dates just are a little formal and a little serious, and I feel like they carry a lot of pressure with them. I like to do like fun dates. So like a fun date that I would be interested in going on is like a haunted house date. Then like, you know, like at least if the date is a nightmare, like the setting matches. Maybe even like watching a scary movie at the movies or something. I mean, just make sure the movie isn't scarier than your date. I don't know, just like dating should be fun, you know, and like I feel like first dates often just feel like job interviews, and there's just no need to make a first date more intimidating than it already is. And I've been really lucky. I've had way more good dates than I've had bad, and I feel like that is not the common trend among like dating a lot and casual dating and everything. But I've definitely had some questionable men in my vicinity. It's just like common things to remember, I think. Like, don't get spooked by rejection. It's just a part of the process. Rejection is just redirection. Trust your witchy instincts. If someone or a situation or something doesn't feel right, if your gut is telling you something, it's probably right, so trust it. And lastly, avoid the tricks and focus on the treats. I'm going to clarify this because I guess that can be perceived in many different ways. Avoid the men that play games. Focus on the men that don't play games. And I'm not saying avoid the men that play games entirely, because I know that they're a little bit fun and a little bit thrilling. Like, bad boys are fun. Have fun with them. but leave it at that. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, the kind of thing where, yeah, continue seeing him until someone that's actually good for you comes along and then be like, bye. You know what I mean? So that is what I have to say about dating. And I hope you guys enjoyed the little Halloween theme. If you guys have any dating tips for the younger generation or have any spooky dating disaster stories, definitely spill them in the comments. I would love to read them. Just because Halloween is coming up, if you guys need any Halloween inspo, next episode is going to be a little bit different than other episodes. I'm going to be going through all of my Halloween costumes that I can find photos of, and we're gonna be rating them and talking about them and making fun of me. So stay tuned for that because that'll be a lot of fun. Like, share, and subscribe. And this was Diaries of a 20-something episode 20. Stay tuned for the rest of this month because this whole month is going to be Halloween themed and I'm super excited for it. And I will see you guys next Friday.